Welcome to the Abolition News Network, the only TV station devoted exclusively to the history of abolition in the U.S. Today is April 15th, 1872. I'm Edward Softwater for A&N. We are in the office of a man in the Philadelphia Anti-Slavery Society. He campaigned successfully against segregation in Philadelphia streetcars, which ended in 1867. And the New York Times is calling this man the founder of the Underground Railroad. But he is most famous for his collection of fugitive slave escape stories, which he had just published in a book this year, entitled The Underground Railroad. Good afternoon, Mr. William Still.
Good afternoon, Mr. Softwater.
Softwater.
Forgive me.
Now, I understand that in aiding the fugitive slaves to get to Canada, these stories were never forgotten. So now that these stories have been published, it must be a great sense of satisfaction that you can now speak up about them.
Yes, the work of hundreds of abolitionists haven't been told fully to appreciate their cause because their lives were in constant danger.
I see. Now, before the Civil War, about how many fugitives did you and your anti-slavery society in Philadelphia help?
About 2,700 through my office in Philadelphia, by foot, cart, and ship. But not only the people, I was also able to collect letters from husbands or wives and smuggle them back to Africa, back to their families, so that they wouldn't lose track of their lives. And there could be reunions after the war.
Wow, that's amazing. In your 780-page book, how many of these stories do you describe?
Hundreds and hundreds, but those are only the ones I could remember. There were others that I wasn't personally involved with and that I didn't write down.
I see. Well, I'm curious, what is the main purpose of this book?
First,
actually, would you show it to our audience right there so they can see?
I apologize, forgive me. First, I'd like to say it wasn't to entertain. I wanted to show what effects were made and what successes under extreme difficulties. In other words, I wanted to bring into the light the whole movement that was well named the Underground Railroad. I intend for the book to be a tribute to the anti-slavery cause.
I see. Well, since we have a time limit on the show, could you tell us the most unusual or daring escapes, or the ones you know personally?
Certainly. I have some sketches from the book to show the more daring and imaginative escapes.
Great. Show them to our audience.
This is Henry Box Brown. He shipped himself from Richmond, Virginia to Philadelphia by express, nonetheless, with a container of water and some biscuits. It took 26 hours. Because of baggage handling, sometimes he was upside down.
Wow.
This is a story of 28 couples that escaped from Maryland by foot in a storm with only guns, crackers, and corn to eat to make it to Philadelphia. This is John. He went from Huntsville, Alabama to Virginia on top of trains at night. He would get off and sleep at dawn and then back at it at night again. He was eventually captured. He was finally taken back to Virginia and sold at an auction. Okay. Then re-escaped back to his home in Alexandria, Virginia. This is Robert Brown. He rode horseback across the Potomac since his wife and his 4 children were sold to a trader in Virginia. The river was a half a mile wide. Then he rode 40 miles until his horse broke down, and then walked for 2 days to Harrisburg on foot. Two couples took their masters and horses' carriages in Virginia and went 100 miles to Maryland and fought off being captured with pistols. A very fine captain hid 28 fugitives in the hold in his boat. Okay. The boat was searched at Norfolk by a posse. The captain pretended to assist by chopping up parts of his boat and as if no one was in the boat, just to hide the fugitives. Okay. And they made it all the way to Philadelphia. This is Maria. At age 13, she dressed as a man to go from Wilmington, Delaware to New York to find a new family to live with, a reverend. Disguises were common at the time. Once a woman dressed as a man with bandages over her head and used her husband to pretend to be her slave. Two girls from Baltimore went by train as mourners with heavy black veils, pretending to be weeping in grief. They even fooled their own masters. A party of 6 took their masters' horses and wagons, were robbed of their carriages, and continued on horses, 3 to a horse. Once the horses broke down, they continued on walking to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I apologize. A girl by the name of Lear Green, had an very possessive owner, okay, was asked to be married, so she escaped in a sailor's chest with the food and water and her mother nearby. It took 18 hours on a trip to Philadelphia. Then she was married in Elmira, Pennsylvania. Happily married, might I add. So 11 slaves took their masters' carriages and 5 children, picked up different families in Philadelphia, broke up, separated, divided up, and went on to Canada. Six fugitives on a rowboat went across the Delaware to New Jersey. They successfully fought off 5 white men to make it to where they were going to Philadelphia in a boat that they all paid $6 for. And finally, 15 slaves from Norfolk, Virginia, crawled in a compartment in the bottom of a schooner. There were 2, should I say, well-endowed women that they had to push through the hatch. Posses and searchers searched the boat, but the captain told them that there was yellow fever on the boat just to keep searchers away. And they all made it successfully.
Wow, those are certainly some amazing stories. Now, considering all of these people and all of the things they did, is there some motivation that was common to all of them?
You know, it could be said that all people have a sense of their own inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But another way to answer this question is to quote a slave by the name of Jane Johnson, who arrived in Philadelphia with her 2 children. When she was read her rights by Pennsylvania law, that she was entitled to her freedom, it was only a few moments that she said, "I am not free, but I want to be free." Always wanted my freedom. But he holds me. She was referring to her slave master. I feel that sums it up.
Well, that is definitely an impressive demonstration of what the urge for freedom can do when prodded by slavery. Thank you, Mr. Still, for sharing these experiences and stories with us. This is Edward Softwater for A&N saying good night.